I never thought the key to my childhood home would feel like a noose tightening around my neck. That rainy Tuesday evening in our sprawling ranch-style house in suburban Ohio, my parents' voices sliced through the living room like shards of glass. Eli, you're no longer welcome inside these walls. Not as family, not anymore. And just like that, with a single notarized deed thrust into my brother's eager hands, they handed over everything I'd ever known to him, banishing me to the backyard shed like some shameful secret they couldn't bear to look at. My name is Eli Harper, and up until that moment, I'd convinced myself that love like mine, quiet, unspoken, woven into the fabric of who I was, could weather any storm. I'd spent 28 years in that house, from scraped knees on the driveway to late-night confessions with my brother over stolen beers in the garage. Alex, my older brother by 3 years, had always been the golden child. Straight-A student turned reliable accountant, the one who married young and popped out a kid before 30. Me? I was the dreamer, the one who sketched charcoal portraits in the attic and whispered poetry into empty notebooks. But when I finally mustered the courage to come out over Sunday brunch, my voice cracking like thunder, Mom, Dad, I'm gay. The sky didn't just fall, it shattered. Dad's face turned the color of ash, his fork clattering against the plate of half-eaten eggs Benedict. Mom clutched her pearls, eyes darting to Alex as if he were her lifeline. This is a phase, Eli, she stammered, but her tone betrayed the lie. Alex shifted uncomfortably, avoiding my gaze, his new wife, Sarah, pretending to fuss over their toddler in the high chair. By evening, the family meeting they'd called felt more like an intervention, the air thick with Bible verses and whispered fears of what the neighbors would think. And then came the ultimatum, repent or leave. But leaving wasn't an option. Not when every penny I'd scraped together as a freelance illustrator went toward student loans and rent in a city that chewed up artists like me. So they compromised in their twisted way. You'll stay, Dad growled, his lawyer's precision cutting deeper than anger. But out back, the shed's got heat. It'll do until you sort yourself out. Alex, ever the peacemaker, or so I thought, nodded along, his hand on Dad's shoulder. It's temporary, bro. Just give it time. Temporary. That word haunted me as I hauled my duffel bag through the sodden grass that night, the shed's door creaking open to reveal cobwebs and a single bare bulb swinging like a pendulum. Inside, it was a forgotten relic. A potting bench shoved against one wall, shelves sagging under dusty jars of fertilizer, and a narrow cot that smelled of mildew and regret. I collapsed onto it, the rain drumming on the tin roof like accusatory fingers, and for the first time, I let the sobs come raw, guttural, the kind that hollow out your chest. Days blurred into a humiliating routine. I'd wake at dawn, the shed's single window fogged with my breath, and slip into the main house before the family stirred for my ritual of stolen showers and raided coffee. Mom would leave plates of leftovers on the back stoop like I was a stray dog, her notes scrawled in passive-aggressive cursive. Pray on this, Eli. God still loves you. Dad avoided me entirely, his truck peeling out for the office by 7 sharp. Alex? He'd wave awkwardly from the kitchen window, baby on his hip, as if I were a ghost haunting his new domain. The house, our house, now legally his, per the deed they'd rushed through with Dad's firm. It's practical, Dad had justified, eyes on the floor. Alex needs stability for the family. You're figuring things out. Figuring things out. If only it were that simple. My freelance gigs dried up in the isolation. Clients ghosted emails when I couldn't muster the energy for deadlines. Nights, I'd lie on that cot, sketching feverishly by flashlight. Portraits of faces I'd never touched. Men with kind eyes and calloused hands. Dreams I'd buried under layers of Midwestern propriety. The backyard became my prison yard. Chain-link fence rattling in the wind. The old oak tree dropping acorns like judgments from above. Neighbors gossiped over hedges. Mrs. Hargrove from next door once knocked on the shed door with a casserole, her pitying smile curdling my stomach. Heard about the situation. Bless your heart. It was on the 10th day, marking it with hash marks on the shed wall like a castaway, that Parker entered my life, crashing through the monotony like a rogue wave. I'd been out back, hacking at the overgrown weeds with a rusty pair of shears, sweat stinging my eyes, when the rumble of a pickup truck shattered the afternoon hush. It was a battered Ford, rust-flecked and mud-splattered, pulling up to the curb with a growl that turned heads. Out stepped Parker Reynolds, all 6 foot something of him, broad-shouldered and sun-weathered, in faded Levi's and a flannel shirt rolled to his elbows. He was the new contractor Dad had hired to fix up the place for Alex's sake. New siding, fresh landscaping, turning our modest ranch into a showcase for the straight and narrow life. Parker caught sight of me mid-swing, shears frozen in my grip, mud caking my jeans. His hazel eyes, sharp as a hawk's, flecked with gold, narrowed, taking in the scene. The shed door ajar behind me, my duffel spilling clothes onto the grass. "You the groundskeeper or something?" he called, voice carrying that easy drawl of someone who'd grown up splitting wood in rural Kentucky before chasing jobs up north. I straightened, wiping my brow, feeling exposed under his gaze, like he saw right through the facade to the bruise blooming inside. "Nah," I muttered, forcing a laugh that sounded like gravel. "Just the black sheep. Ellie, this is my backyard now." The words hung there, bitter as the dandelions I'd been uprooting. He hefted a toolbox from the truck bed, boots crunching gravel as he approached, unhurried. Up close, he smelled of sawdust and fresh-cut pine. His dark hair tousled under a worn baseball cap. "Parker," he said, extending a hand roughened by years of labor. Our palms met, calluses to calluses, and something electric flickered, gone before I could name it. Heard whispers round the hardware store. "Tough break, man." We talked then, or rather, he talked while I listened, leaning against the shed as he unloaded supplies. Parker was 32, divorced young from a high school sweetheart who'd wanted kids he wasn't ready for, now bouncing between contracts in Cleveland's outskirts. "Life's too short for fences," he said, nodding at the chain link. "Build 'em, sure, but they keep out the good stuff too." His words landed soft, probing without pity, and for the first time since the fall, I felt seen. Not as a problem to solve, but as a man with dirt under his nails and fire in his gut. By week's end, Parker was a fixture, arriving at dawn with thermoses of black coffee, sharing them on the shed steps while the house slumbered. He'd regale me with tales of botched jobs, roofs that caved under snow, clients who haggled over pennies, his laugh booming like thunder rolling off Lake Erie. I'd sketch him in stolen moments, capturing the way his forearms flexed when he hammered nails, the thoughtful crease between his brows when he stared at the horizon. It was innocent at first, camaraderie born of shared solitude. But nights alone, the shed walls closing in, I traced those lines in my mind, wondering what it would feel like to have hands like his trace back. The romance crept in sideways, like mist off the Cuyahoga. One crisp October evening, after a day of Parker tearing out the rotten deck boards, splinters flying, his shirt damp with sweat, he invited me to ride shotgun to the local dive for wings and cheap beer.
Smon, Ellie.
Shed life's no good without wings. I hesitated, glancing at the house lights flickering on, Mom's silhouette in the window like a sentinel. But his grin, crooked, inviting, pulled me under. We drove with the windows down, wind whipping through, Springsteen on the radio crooning about Born to Run Hearts. At the bar, under neon signs buzzing like fireflies, he bought the first round, our knees brushing under the scarred oak table. "You ever think about leavin'?" he asked over the clink of glasses, foam clinging to his upper lip. His eyes held mine, steady, searching. I shrugged, picking at a label. Where to? This is home. But it wasn't not anymore. The shed was a cage, the house a monument to rejection. Parker leaned in, voice low. "Home ain't bricks, Eli. People.
Moments."
His fingers grazed mine on the table. Accidental, maybe, and the world narrowed to that point of contact, warm and unyielding. We didn't kiss that night. The air hummed with possibility, thick as the smoke from the grill. Driving back, his hand rested on the gearshift, inches from my thigh, and I wondered if he felt it too. The pull, magnetic and terrifying. Back in the shed, I lay awake, heart pounding like a bass drum. Parker texted at midnight. Wings again Friday? No pressure. I smiled into the dark, thumbs flying. Only if you promise not to cheat at pool. It was the start of something fragile, a thread weaving through the wreckage. Mornings, he'd linger longer, fixing the shed's leaky roof on the house. His ladder propped against the oak as I passed up tools. We'd talk dreams. Mine of exhibiting in New York galleries, his of settling in a cabin upstate with land enough for a workshop. You'd fit there, he'd say, casual, but his gaze lingered, tracing my jaw like a blueprint. Alex noticed, of course. One afternoon, as Parker sanded the new deck smooth, my brother wandered out back, tie loosened from his office grind, Sarah trailing with the baby on her hip. "Who's the help?" Alex asked, loud enough to carry, clapping Parker on the back like they were old pals. Parker's jaw tightened, but he played it cool. "Just making this place shine for ya, sir." Alex shot me a look, wary, possessive, then pulled me aside by the fence. "Eli, level with me. What's with the contractor? Dad's footing the bill, not for whatever this is." His voice dripped concern, but underneath lurked something sharper. Envy? Fear? "I'm happy for you, bro, really. But don't drag us down. Drag us down." The words festered, a splinter under skin. That night, over lukewarm meatloaf left on the stoop, I confronted Mom in the kitchen. First time inside since the banishment. She was at the sink, suds to her elbows, back rigid. "Alex's family now, Eli. Real family." Her voice cracked, but she didn't turn. "This choice of yours, it hurts us all." I pressed. "And Parker's just a friend, Mom. Someone who sees me." She whirled then, dish rag dripping, eyes red-rimmed. "Sees you? Or uses you? We've lost enough already. Lost enough. As if I were the thief." I stormed out, slamming the door, the first crack in their fortress. Parker was waiting in the truck, headlights cutting the dark. "Rough night?" he asked, engine idling. I slid in, the cab enveloping me in his scent. Pine and possibility. "Family's a battlefield," I muttered. He nodded, wise beyond his years. "Mine too. Dad walked out when I was 10. Mom drank herself gone by 16. Learned early. Blood don't always mean loyalty." We drove aimless loops through sleeping subdivisions, sharing silences that spoke volumes. At a stoplight, his hand found mine. Deliberate this time, thumb stroking my knuckles. "You're loyal, Eli. Fierce. Don't let em dim that." The kiss happened under that same oak tree, 2 weeks later, on a Friday night after pool and too many IPAs. Parker had sunk the 8-ball clean, crowing victory, but his eyes were soft as we stumbled into the yard, the house dark and oblivious. "Eli," he whispered, backing me against the trunk, bark rough through my jacket. His breath was warm, beery sweet, and when our lips met, tentative, then urgent. It was like exhaling after drowning. His hands framed my face, gentle as if I were porcelain, and I melted into him, the world fading to the rhythm of our hearts sinking. No rush, no fire, just a quiet unraveling, souls brushing edges long guarded. From there, it deepened. Stolen hours in his truck, sketching him by lamplight in the shed, whispers of futures untethered from Ohio's grip. Parker became my anchor, his strength a balm to my fractures. "Move with me," he'd murmur post-kiss, foreheads pressed. "Upstate. Start fresh." I'd nod, dreaming of canvases unrolling in sun-dappled studios. But the house, the shed, clung like kudzu. Then came the betrayal, swift as a winter squall. It was mid-November, leaves carpeting the yard in crimson decay, when Alex cornered Parker during a lunch break. I'd slipped inside for a forgotten sketch pad, emerging to overhear from the kitchen window. Alex's voice, oily smooth. "Look, Reynolds, I appreciate the work, but stay clear of my brother. He's unstable. This gay thing, it's a cry for help. Dad's worried you'll take advantage." Parker's response was ice. "Advantage? Man's got more grit than your whole block. Back off." But Alex pressed, dangling the threat. Finish the job. Get paid. Or I'll tell Dad to cut you loose. Family first, right? I burst out then, sketchpad tumbling, fury boiling over. You sold me out, Alex? To protect your deed. He flinched, baby squalling inside, Sarah's face pale at the door. Eli, it's for your good. Parker's just a rebound. A mistake that'll ruin you. Parker stepped between us, toolbox clattering, his arm a shield around my shoulders. Enough. I'm done here. The punch, metaphorical, landed as he packed his truck, me trailing apologies. But Alex's words echoed ruin, mistake. That night, the climax erupted in the living room I'd once called mine. Dad home early, Mom wringing her hands, Alex pacing like a caged wolf. I marched in, shed mud tracking the carpet, Parker at my back. Uninvited, unyielding. We're leaving, I declared, voice steel-forged in the shed's forge. But first, hear this. Love isn't a phase. It's not your shame to wield. Dad rose, face thunderous. This is my house, Alex's house now. Get out. Mom wept, clutching Dad's arm. Please, Eli, change. For us. Parker spoke then, voice steady as rebar. Ma'am, sir. Love don't change. It builds. Eli's the strongest man I know, and you're tearing him down for something he can't, and shouldn't, fix. Alex lunged forward. You don't get it. This family's everything. But I saw it then, the fracture lines. Alex's eyes, hollow with the weight of inheritance he'd never wanted. Not truly. Everything. I laughed. Bitter. You traded blood for bricks, bro. Who's the unstable one? The storm broke. Shouts overlapping. Mom collapsing into sobs. Dad's vein pulsing like a fault line. Parker pulled me toward the door, his grip my lifeline. But I paused at the threshold, turning back. I forgive you, I said, voice cracking. Not for me, for you. Because hate like this, it eats alive. We fled into the night, rain lashing anew, his truck's wipers slashing tears from the windshield. The road north unspooled like a promise, blacktop glistening under sodium lamps, Parker's hand laced with mine over the console. We'd grabbed my duffel and sketchbooks in a whirlwind exodus, the shed's door banging shut behind us like a full stop. Ohio receded in the rearview, subdivisions blurring to cornfields, then the faint glow of Cleveland's skyline fading to stars. Where to? Parker asked, voice a low rumble over the engine's hum. I squeezed his fingers, the calluses a map of roads we'd yet to travel. Anywhere but here. Your cabin dream. Let's chase it. He grinned, that crooked flash that lit his hazel eyes like dawn on the lake. Upstate it is, then. Finger Lakes. Room for a workshop. And an artist's nook. We drove through the night, trading stories to stave off the ache. His boyhood summers fishing the Kentucky River, baiting hooks with crickets while dreaming of cities. My attic escapes, charcoal smudging fingers as I drew men from magazine ads, hearts pounding with forbidden what-ifs. By dawn, we'd crossed into Pennsylvania, pulling into a roadside diner where truckers nursed Joe, and the air smelled of bacon grease and possibility. Over pancakes stacked like fluffy clouds, Parker traced the vein on my wrist. Regrets, he murmured. I met his gaze steady. Only that I waited so long to fight. The betrayal lingered, though, a shadow puppeteering doubts. In stolen glances at gas stations, I'd catch my reflection in bathroom mirrors. Hollow-cheeked, eyes bruised with exhaustion. Was this flight or freedom? Alex's words clawed back. Unstable, mistake. And Parker's steadiness? Borrowed time, maybe, but he dismantled it piece by gentle piece. That first week on the road, motels blurring into a montage of neon vacancies. He'd wake me with diner coffee and forehead kisses, whispering, "You're my North Star, Eli, steady as they come." We'd make love in the soft light of dawn. Tender explorations, bodies mapping uncharted territories with reverence. No urgency, just the sacred act of claiming space in each other's skin. It mended something fractured, stitching me whole with threads of trust. We hit the Finger Lakes by Thanksgiving, the air crisp with wood smoke and fallen leaves crunching under tires. Parker's cabin was more homestead. A 2-story A-frame on 5 acres, mortgaged to the hilt from his savings, overlooking Seneca Lake's glassy expanse. It smelled of pine resin and fresh paint, the workshop a half-built haven of sawhorses and tool racks. "Home," he declared, sweeping me into arms that smelled of sawdust, spinning me on the creaky porch until laughter bubbled free. I claimed the upstairs loft, skylights framing constellations, a drafting table scavenged from a yard sale in Elmira. Days blurred into rhythm. Him felling oaks for beams, me sketching commissions for local wineries. Our evenings tangled on the threadbare sofa, vinyl spinning Dylan laments. But conflict brewed, insidious as frost. Word from Ohio trickled in via a reluctant email from Sarah, Alex's wife, the unlikely bridge.
Hair spiraling. Ellie.
The house feels empty without you two fighting over the remote. Mom's barely eating. Dad's working doubles to avoid it. Guilt gnawed a rat in the walls. Was I the villain, abandoning them to their self-made hell? Parker saw it in my sketches. Figures with shadowed faces, backyards rendered in stormy grays. "Don't borrow their chains," he'd say, pulling me to the lake's edge at dusk, skipping stones until ripples lapped our boots. "You gave him truth. That's gift enough." Romance deepened in those wintry months, a slow burn feeding on vulnerability. Christmas Eve, snow blanketing the hills like forgiveness. We strung lights on the porch, fairy bulbs twinkling against the dark. Parker carved our initials into a walnut plaque, hands steady as he sanded it smooth. NP, intertwined like vines. "Forever's a choice," he said, hanging it above the door, his breath fogging the chill air. We made cocoa spiked with bourbon, toasting to outcasts and second acts. His head on my shoulder as Bing Crosby crooned from the radio. That night, under quilts heavy as hope, he confessed, "Scared me. Back in Ohio. Thought you'd choose him over this, over us." I traced his jaw, stubble rasping under fingertips. "Never. You're my chosen family." Spring thawed the ice, but unearthed old wounds. A package arrived in April. Mom's handwriting on the label, fragile as eggshell. Inside, my childhood sketchbook, pages yellowed with attic dust, and a letter folded crisp. "Eli, we've prayed. Alex sold the house. Couldn't live with the ghost of you. Dad's retiring early. We're moving to Florida, start over. Forgive us. We love you. Always have." No apology, just a plea wrapped in piety. I crumpled it, tears hot on cheeks, Parker folding me close on the loft floor. "Biased love," he murmured. "Don't let it define yours." The real storm hit in June, heat wave shimmering the lake like mirage. Alex showed unannounced, rental car kicking gravel, face gaunt under a weak stubble. "Eli," he choked, standing on the porch like a supplicant. Sarah hovering with the toddler, now a wide-eyed 4-year-old clutching a stuffed bear. Parker tensed in the workshop doorway, hammer mid-swing, but I waved him off. This was mine to mend or sever. We talked for hours, porch rockers creaking under unspoken weights. Alex spilled it all. The house's echo chambers driving him mad. Sarah's ultimatum to make peace or lose her too. "I betrayed you for scraps, bro dad's approval. Thought it'd fill the hole. But it hollowed us." His eyes, mirrors of mine, brimmed. "Parker's good for you. Saw it even then. Just scared I'd lose you to something real." The toddler waddled over, offering the bear. "Uncle Iwie?" I scooped him up, heart cracking open, and nodded to Alex. "Family's not deeds or sheds. It's showing up." Parker joined us at dusk, grudging at first, but his handshake with Alex was firm. No grudges lingering. We grilled burgers, smoke curling like incense, sharing beers as fireflies danced. Sarah confessed her own secrets. Quiet ally in the shadows, slipping me extra cash during the shed days. "Hated watching you break." By nightfall, hugs exchanged, promises to visit, Alex's car taillights fading down the drive. "Redemption?" Parker asked later, arms around me from behind, chin on shoulder. I leaned into him, lake breeze cooling sweat. Maybe, or just, humanity. Summer peaked in lazy abundance. Farmers' markets in Geneva, my illustrations gracing cafe walls, Parker's commissions stacking like cordwood. Romance flowered wild. Picnics on the dock, his laughter echoing as we canoed at twilight, fingers trailing water like secrets. "Marry me?" he asked one July 4th. Fireworks blooming overhead. Ring a simple band forged from scrap silver in his workshop. I said yes, tears salting the lake. Our kiss sealing vows under a canopy of stars. Fall brought full circle. Mom and Dad's tentative call, voices tentative over static lines. "We're trying, son." Therapy, real talk. No floodgates, but a trickle. Invitations to Florida, photos of Alex's new starter home in Akron. Humanistic, messy. Love not as fairy tale, but as work, weeds pulled daily. Parker and I built on, the A-frame expanding to include a nursery nook. Adoption dreams whispered in winter dark. Years later, sketching by the lake, grandson on knee babbling colors, I traced the scar. That backyard banishment, the betrayal's blade. It carved space for this roots deeper than blood. Love unforced, wild as the wind off Seneca. We're all just sheds sometimes, makeshift and aching, until someone hands us the hammer. Looking back, that Ohio backyard wasn't the end. It was the forge. The tin roof that once amplified my isolation now echoes in memory as the anvil where my spine straightened. Where Parker's voice first cut through like sunlight piercing storm clouds. We've been married 7 years now. The A-frame a sprawling haven of laughter and sawdust. Our adopted daughter Lila chasing fireflies while Parker and I sway on the porch glider. His arm a constant weight around my shoulders. But the road to here? It wound through valleys of doubt, peaks of raw joy, and the quiet humanism of simply enduring. After Alex's visit, the pieces didn't snap neat. Life rarely does. Mom and Dad's trying manifested in fits and starts. Awkward Zoom calls where Dad grunted approvals over my gallery shows. Mom sending Lila quilts stitched with Bible verses she'd reinterpreted as, "Love thy neighbor, period." Alex rebuilt too. Therapy unraveling the golden child knots. His texts evolving from stilted check-ins to memes about bad dad jokes. Betrayal's sting faded, not to numbness, but to understanding. We were all prisoners of expectation, chafing against bars we'd helped erect. Parker and I dove into our rhythm, the finger lakes a canvas for reinvention. My art flourished. Solo exhibit in Ithaca drawing collectors who saw the emotion in my backyards and broken oaks. Themes born of that shed's confines. Vulnerability's your superpower, Parker'd say, critiquing over coffee. His engineers I spotting compositions I'd missed. His business boomed too. Custom builds for eco-families, cabins echoing our own. Each nail driven with the precision of a man who'd learned to construct not just walls, but welcomes. Yet conflict simmered, unbidden. Lila came to us at 3, a whirlwind of foster system scars and gap-toothed grins. Her adoption final in a Rochester courtroom that smelled of polished oak and fresh starts. She was our light, but shadows followed. Nightmares of Biomom's abandonment triggering my own disownment echoes. One night, post-meltdown. Lila thrashing in my arms, screams piercing the loft. I shattered. What if I'm broken too? Passing on the hurt. Parker held us both, his voice a lighthouse beam. Broken? Nah. We're mosaics, Eli, all sharp edges, but beautiful whole. We sought counsel then. Family therapy via video with a counselor versed in queer kinships. It peeled layers. My resentment toward Mom, not as punishment, but as grief for the parents we deserved. Romance, ever the thread, wove tighter in those trials. Anniversaries marked not dates, but milestones. The shed's 1-year mark with a bonfire, burning old sketches of isolation. Lila's first, "I love you"s whispered during lakeside camps. Parker and I exchanging vows anew under pup tents. Intimacy evolved. Less urgency, more depth, mornings tangled in sheets. His fingers tracing tattooed quotes on my ribs. The wound is the place where the light enters. Rumi's wisdom inked post-Exodus. "You're my light," he'd murmur, kisses lazy as summer haze. The true climax crested unexpectedly, a year after Lila's adoption, when Dad's heart attack yanked us south. Florida's humidity clung like regret as we flew in, Parker at my side, Lila on hip clutching her bear, now threadbare from love. Hospital corridors hummed sterile, Mama Wraith in the waiting room, Alex pacing with Sarah, their teen son, my nephew, hunched over a phone. He asked for you? Mom whispered, eyes searching mine like lost keys. In the ICU, Dad lay tethered to beeps, skin sallow, but his grip on my hand was iron.
Ellie.
Sorry. For the shed. For everything. Voice raspy, eyes wet. Proud now. Of you. Proud. The word unlocked floods. Tears streaming as I squeezed back. Parker nodding from the doorway. His presence a silent vow. We stayed weeks, bridging chasms. Family dinners in the condo, Lila's chatter thawing silences, Alex and I rebuilding over late-night walks on St. Pete beaches. Waves erasing footprints like old sins. Dad recovered slow, rehab a metaphor for us all, steps tentative, progress in inches. Humanity's in the trying, Parker said on the flight home, Lila asleep across our laps. I nodded, head on his shoulder. And the forgiving. Back north, autumn painted the lakes gold, mirroring the warmth seeping into old wounds. My next series, Forged in Tin, debuted in Syracuse, sheds reimagined as sanctuaries, backyards blooming defiant. Critics called it a testament to queer resilience. But for me, it was prayer. Gratitude for betrayals that birthed belonging. Parker surprised me opening night, custom frame in hand, walnut, like our plaque, engraved, from shed to stars. Lila thrives now, 8 and fierce, sketching beside me with crayons bold as her questions. Why'd Grandma's house make you sad, Daddy Eli? I'd pause, charcoal midstroke, choosing truths age-appropriate. It taught me love's biggest when it's hardest. Parker chimes in from the workshop, voice carrying. And that families who shows up, kiddo, even in the rain. We've hosted them all since. Alex's crew for 4th barbecues, Mom and Dad's tentative visits blooming to annuals, Dad whittling with Parker, Mom quilting with Lila. No fairy tale polish. Arguments flare, old habits die hard. But the table seats fuller, plates passing hands that once pushed away. Humanistic, yes. Recognition that we're all gay in our guises, sidelined by secrets, yearning for yards without fences. Tonight, as snow dusts the A-frame, Parker stokes the fire, flames dancing on his face like remembered rain. Lila slumbers, bear tucked close. I sketch us 3, lines soft with permanence. Worth the backyard? He asks, pulling me near, lips brushing temple. I smile, tracing his wedding band. Every muddy step led here to you. And in this, the story's heart. Not triumph over tragedy, but alchemy from ash. Love, disowned then reclaimed, proves no phase, but the truest inheritance.